Alright, welcome. This video is to show you how to use ArcPro to join tables and also compare fields within those tables to look for any changes. And so what we have here is a parcel scoring system called RAC, which scores every parcel based on its riparian, adjacent, quality characteristics. And so we have scores of these larger parcels across this watershed in central Minnesota. But this was done in 2021, 2022, and the names and addresses in many of these parcels have changed since then. The attribute table basically has parcel ID, acres, name, address, um, the rack scoring fields, some watershed and land cover data. But we're really interested in seeing if the names and addresses have changed. And we're going to compare it to a current parcel layer. In this case, we're just going to focus on Crow Wing County, one of the counties in that watershed. And first off, we need to make sure that that we have fields that are compatible that we can join. In this case, we're joining the parcel ID field for the rack as well as the current parcel layer. And you'll notice this one has like an 8-digit kind of pin. This one a little different with hyphens. And so the reason for that is we're just looking at Aiken County data here. So I think the first thing we need to do with this rack parcels is go to properties and do a definition query. We're just going to define this layer just to show Crow Wing County parcels because there's 5 counties that make up the watershed, but we're just interested in working in Crow Wing. So now if we turn that layer on, we're going to have just rack scoring for that county shown. And then if we look at the attributes, our parcel ID field looks like this other one here with an 8-digit pin. So the join should work. I can tell you it will work because I built both of them the same, and they're both text fields. Sometimes you gotta be careful if you're joining text to number to make sure that they're the same. So with the table open, we want to keep the rack scoring data because it has the scores, it's got the land cover information. All we're looking to do is pull out the new updated names and addresses. So to do that, we're going to go click these 3 lines, go to join and relate, add a new join. We're going to join the rack parcels using that parcel ID field to the Crow Wing parcels using that same parcel ID field. Join one to first. All right, so I'm actually going to close this one. So the rack parcels should have a name, address, parcel ID, acres. That should have a few of those fields. So you can see we get to the end of the old one. The new one starts here. We got a lot more fields have been added to the join. And there we start to see acres, GIS again. We see name, we see address 2, city, state, zip. So how do we figure out what has changed? Which ones have been updated? To do that, we're going to select by attributes. We're going to select from this rack parcels layer that we have open. We're going to make a new selection. We're going to pick the first name field, and we're going to say it is not equal to, basically scroll down to find the second name field. And you can do it with addresses too. Sometimes I suppose you could have a name with multiple addresses, but whatever your data is set up for. And you can actually save this expression. So if you're going to run this multiple times, you could potentially load it into future queries. So we're going to hit OK. So again, we're selecting where the 2 name fields, the original one from this rack parcels and the one we joined, don't match. So in other words, when we click on a parcel, because we joined one to another, everything theoretically should be the same within that parcel unless, you know, over the course of time, there's been a name change. So actually we have quite a few here showing up in purple. Again, these are the ones that we selected that don't have the same name. So this one, Carol Ann Williams, this is in 2021. Again, we're preserving all this rack scoring data, land cover data, but we joined it to that same parcel 3.5 years later, and now we have a new name of Nicholas Lamuska. So that property has been apparently sold or handed down somehow. And so I'm just going to show the selected fields. I did freeze that first name column, and I'm going to scroll over, find the next name column just to check. And sure enough, look at Fleet Farm is now Juno Investments. Potlatch has been sold to Contel Systems. All these have different Morrison family to Eagle Brook Church, Johnson family to Tunyon. Different names over the course of the last, um, that's actually a quarter, 2000 and 8,000 have changed hands. That is crazy. And then you can do the same thing and verify if, you know, that the other ones did not change. Um, so Woodland Shores is still Woodland Shores. St. Joseph Church, still St. Joseph's Church. So if we want to fix this, here's what we're going to do. We're going to field calculate. We're just going to work with the 2,000 records that we have selected. And it reinforces that. Just use those records. We're going to take the original rack parcels.name, and we're going to calculate that to be the name field of Crowing Parcels 2024. So we're basically just going to take the new name, slap it into this original file that we want to keep because it's great. And there you can see the new names. Now we got to make sure, it would be helpful if we also did this with the address, right? Because if somebody's buying property, it's a new name, it's a new address. And so we can again scroll down, find the address field. So rack parcels address is equal to the new Crowing parcels address. Hit OK. And address 2, sometimes there's a second address. I kind of cleaned up the data to just bring it into a name, address, address 2 field. In this case, we know it's called address 2, so we can just type that in, hit OK. And then I kind of combine or clean up the data into just one city state. Those actually do not have a second address, so got rid of those. City state zip field. So I don't know, but I want to type that out. So we had Appleton, Spokane, Baxter, Brainerd. And now we have Appleton, Brainerd, Bismarck, Brainerd, Fort Ripley. All right. So that should be it. Nothing else really changed. I guess we could, if we wanted to, look at the land values might have changed, for example. So we could calculate that field. Um, trying to think of what else would change over the course of time. So I'd probably actually do the land values for all of them, to be honest, because every parcel, I'm sure, increased in land value. Um, so we're going to clear that selection, calculate land value using all of them. It's taking a little longer to do this, but you guys get the gist. That's kind of um, how you can compare fields with a joined table. Then what I would recommend after, you know, if we again had the ones that we wanted selected, and probably should have stayed on that tab. Um, but nonetheless, it's pretty easy to go into Excel. Let's see, you have a bunch selected. We'll just um, switch selections to get all of them selected. Because maybe you're going to mail to all of them, and some have changed, some have not, but there hasn't been a mailing in a while, so you're going to target some folks with high rack scores. Um, well, that's a good point too. So let's say we got the addresses figured out how we want. Now we're going to do a selection on um, rack score, because the higher the better. Before we do that, I think it would be helpful if we remove the join, just so we got back to our original data. Select by attributes. Rack total.